Next speaker is Eugene Bruins.
Very good, yeah.
Thank you. Eugene is the curator of lower vertebrates and invertebrates at the Arte Zoo in Amsterdam, and is also the coordinator of the Cardinal Fish ASP, and that's what he's going to talk about today. Please.
Okay, buenas tardes. Bangai cardinal fish, Pterabagon coderni, is it threatened or is it even threatening? I keep the historic information short. I will tell you afterwards what is the situation in Bangai. And then I did an expedition to land-based Strait, 400 kilometers to the north. Keep the historical information, the introduction short. I did a talk in 2002 on the EUAC. I guess you're all pretty familiar with this fish. Discovered 1920, then forgotten, rediscovered 1992, and then very quickly it became a very popular aquarium fish. And well, from that time on, the biggest threat was capture. And due to the low fecundity and to the very limited geographic range for this fish, that was quite a disaster. Also confirmed by Lynn and Moreau. They did research 2000, and they estimated that no less than 700,000 of these fish were caught in the Bangai area. And that fishermen had more and more difficulty in finding them. That same time, Vageli, he estimated the total population at only 1.7 million. This is Alexandro Vageli from the New Jersey Academy of Aquatic Sciences. This is the world leader, the world expert on Bangai cardinal fish. He is working with the species since '96 and still working on it right now. He discovered that the geographic distribution of the species was much larger than was expected in the Bangai area, but it was also living in Luwuk Bay, which is on the Sulawesi mainland, and 400 kilometers to the north. It was also released from trader nets, and he discovered another population there. Information from Vageli at that time, the Bangai cardinal fish stays very close to its hiding substrates. It is living in shallow water, and it is very attached, extremely side attached. It doesn't move away from its hiding places. And there it hides between anemones, branching corals, hydrozoans and urchins, and lives happily together with a whole bunch of fish. And now the orange line, clownfishes did not display agonistic behavior to the Bangais. Vageli found some parasites, and he found that the main food was copepods, but also fish larvae were eaten. This is all relevant for my own observations later on. So let's go to Bangai right now. What's the situation there? This year I spoke to these people. They will be back later. To begin with Vageli. And he told me he had calculated and estimated the historical abundance of the species. And 15 years ago, he expected that there were 20 million of these fish swimming around in the archipelago. After 200 surveys and 30 censuses, he now estimates the population at 2 million, which means a 90% decline, which is huge, of course. And the total capture now is about 1 million a year. Happily, it breeds quick enough to still not going extinct. But not very weird though that the USA, Vageli, they proposed the species to be listed on Appendix 2, CITES. Unfortunately, that proposal was withdrawn. At that same meeting, Indonesia did not support the whole proposal, and other countries, they also appear to have an opinion on this. But the Indonesian authorities, they assured to implement a species management plan, says Vageli. If you look at the minutes of that CITES convention, there are a few lines Indonesian government had worked with the European community to sustainably manage this species. That's one. And Indonesia invited the United States to cooperate in addressing the management issues of the species. Sounds nice. According to Fajoli, it's completely false, what's standing here. What did happen is that it was on the IUCN list being endangered, so that's a good thing, but this has no influence on trade, unfortunately. And last May, I went to an Aquarama exhibition in Singapore. It's a biannual exhibition for fish dealers. I was quite weird there. And spoke to Ron Liley, who did a presentation on the Banggai cardinal fish. He works for LINI, which is an Indonesian Nature Foundation. And afterwards I spoke also with Gayatri Rekshodi Harto, which also works for LINI and is the wife of Liley. A few slides out of Liley's presentation. Bangais are now traded via Luwuk, Tumbak, a whole range of other cities. And many of these cities, they are swimming there now. Not in the city, but in the sea. Mortalities, reject rates are still very high. And then there's a funny line. Given sufficient support by the marine ornamental trade, Indonesia has the opportunity to develop a management plan for the species. That sounds already different than what Fajoli says. Indonesia assured a management plan to be implemented. There's some tension. I feel some tension between USA and Indonesia, and let me say no more about this one. Indonesia would support the development of the management plan. LINI already did initial training of 22 existing. They don't want more fish collectors there. 22 existing fish collectors, traders, village leaders, and there will be more training to follow. And Indonesia also supports, in the future, training in rehabilitation, community training, and collection of harvest data, very important. And the management plan also is supposed to include, I don't have it yet, procedures for collecting, trade, research, conservation as efforts, the data management, and monitoring surveillance. Afterwards, I spoke also with Gayatri, and she says that outside traders, they mainly come from Bali, they just come into the archipelago, they catch what they want, and they leave without reporting anything. So simple, but rational management is needed. I mostly like the no-take areas to be established. And then again, financial input and incentives are needed to get us all started. And I mailed about this with Liley, and he says, yes, in a country where you have tsunamis and where you also have endangered tigers, black and white fish in the sea doesn't get the highest priority. And I can believe that that's unfortunately a problem there. So Liley asked support, cooperation. Can do that now because I still don't have the management plan. It's in Indonesian language, so I wait for that till to happen. Of course, I thought about support from EUAC, support from the Dutch Zoo Federation, support from Artisu, maybe, I don't know, to be continued. But questions remain as long as I do not have the whole management plan, of course. What is the governmental support, the way to implement the whole activities, financed, timetables, can tell you that. Gayatri, she added, she does diving. She dives, and she says where bangais are still caught, there the population decline, and some places you can't find them anymore. Except, for example, a pearl farm, and that is of course heavily guarded and nobody dares to fish there, so there they are thriving very well. But she says dealers in Manado can still fulfill the demand. Fajoli confirms this, and he says fishermen do need a lot more time and do need to search in a much bigger area to find enough fish to produce the same catches as before. And indeed, some islands you cannot find bangais anymore. The whole populations went extinct. So are we buying any less? I went to Manado to Refish International, meet Mr. Handy and his fish farm, 3 shipments of fish a week, 1,000 bangais a week. And he gets the bangais very readily available from the Bangai archipelago. And he pays the middleman 30 cents. He gets from the European and US wholesalers $1.50. And that are the same prices as 8 years ago. All the middle-sized are coming into his facility, and the rest is rejected, thrown overboard, making new populations, for example. And he also said that one fish dealer, he released the bangais in Tomini Gulf to see if they breed there as well. So the Bangai cardinal fish is spreading and spreading and spreading, all due to this trade. And Handy, he expects in 5 years' time all Sulawesi will have Bangai cardinal fish. So I went to the Dutch wholesaler De Jong, Arie De Jong, and he says yes, there's still the same demand for the Bangai cardinal fish. You can see in his tank there's only one. But buyers, they prefer captive bred animals, and he told me that he only bought captive bred animals from Indonesia. Fajuli, he confirms also in the States the price levels, the import levels, they remain the same. But he says captive bred, there's not much captive bred yet. All is coming from the wild. Anyway, looking at this all, I believe I can say the Bangai cardinal fish is still very threatened in the Bangai archipelago. So what about land-based trade? You go 400 kilometers to the north, outside its natural range, and there in 2000 the first 49 bangais were seen at 2 sites. The picture shows Sarina Island, that's one of the 2 sites, and it was released or escaped from exporter nets over there. And I went there in May, my own private expedition, and they were everywhere. Bangais were really everywhere. What about Langbei? Langbei is fantastic diving. It has a muck habitat, which means you dive on sand. There's not much coral, there's not much to see, but you dive from one critter to the other. Each time you are rewarded. Oh, you see something, then you dive 2 minutes, and oh, the next one, and it's really, really special and fantastic. And the Bangai cardinal fish population there, they grow very fast, because the predators, like the honeycomb grouper that eats the bangais in Bangai archipelago, they are not abundant yet in Langbei. And also in North Sulawesi, meaning also Langbei, there's no collection of fish. So all the circumstances, they seem pretty well for bangais, except for one, on this muck habitat. There's not much substrate, and the picture shows one bangai who is even hiding between upside down jellyfish. So there's a lack of microhabitats, and bangais are forced to use every benthic available habitat available. Here they use a large log with some diademas on it, but they also use car tires and this upside down jellyfish, and they also go deeper. In Bangai archipelago, they go mostly no deeper than 2.5 meters. Here you can easily see them at 8 meters deep depth. This is what you should see normally in an anemone in Langbei. All kind of nice fish. Or this is not supposed to happen. Okay, we're there again. Oops. Page up. Yep. All kind of nice fish, all kind of nice crustaceans between the anemones. And also here, there's not much wrong, right? Hey, something black and white. It's a pair, and the male carrying larvae, a young fish in the mouth. And here in these anemones, the Bangai cardinal fish has arrived. And look how many other fish are there in the anemone. Not much. Clownfish, they defend their anemone, fanatic. All of you who have teased a little bit the clownfish, they all know this, you all know this. So this is me and little clownfish, it's really bumping into my glasses, my mask, and well, you don't stay there for 3-4 minutes. They really chase away the divers, which is fun, of course. They can chase away me, but they can't cope with this. I tried to count, and it's about 150 Bangai cardinal fish around this anemone. Remember, they ate fish larvae? Well, these clownfish eggs, they will be Caudani's lunch. Same story for corals, although not so obvious. Here's the Bangai in the corals, but in the corals you can often see other fish still. But it's again very obvious when Bangais arrive in the diadema sea urchins. Here's what normally swims between the sea urchins in Lembe, and here's what you get when Bangais arrive. No other species are allowed to swim there anymore. So again, we are waiting for a movie. At home it works a little bit quicker. This whole suspicion that I tell you is not based on quantitative data. Yep, whoops, and now I'm going too far. You care for another movie? Of course. You think of the bubble noise now. Eh? So there we go, Bangais between the sea urchins, and you should not look at the Bangais present, you should look how many other fish you discover. I believe there's one rest in the background somewhere.
3 minutes left.
3 minutes, 3 minutes. If there's only 3 minutes, I go on. So, what are the possible threats? You saw already that they compete for shelter, for food probably. I told you there were some parasites found, and I told you that they like to eat fish larvae as well. So the Bangai cardinal fish seems to chase away all species out of their anemone, out of their urchin, which is not good. The species is threatened in the Bangai archipelago, but might be threatening in Lembe. How serious is this problem? Well, happily, they are contained by sandy areas, by open water. This is, of course, not a Bangai cardinal fish, red cardinal fish, and that's also like the Bangai cardinal fish, not a good swimmer, and they are just there on the sand, and especially when they get a little bit help of a diver's torch, then they are quickly eaten. The Bangai cardinal fish, well, they are extremely side attached, I told you, and they have to hitchhike with sea urchins, and on the sand they are quickly eaten. Also open water, a lot of predators there. And here is Luwuk Bay. They live in that inside area there of Luwuk Bay, and they cannot come out. There's too much current. Luckily, the Sulawesi coast is mainly sandy area with a lot of current and not much coral, so hopefully the Bangais are restricted to the areas they now are. So how did it cross Lembe Strait? Because in the beginning they were only at the Sulawesi side and not at the Lembe side. Dive operators, they moved the fish. They told this to Fajali, where they got the fish, where they put the fish. And what I'm planning to do is publish this whole suspicion in dive magazines and hope these dive operators there in Lembe, they see it. Because imagine what happens when somebody brings these Bangais to Bunaken Island, diving paradise only well, less than 10 kilometers away. To keep the whole thing in perspective, these whole invasive populations, that's less than 1.5% of all the total population. And an oil spill or an earthquake could wipe out all the urchins or the anemones, and all the Bangais will be gone as well. The problem is, divers get the view of, okay, Bangai cardinal fish is doing well, but it's not. And that might facilitate those who want to gain profit from the fish. Future work, almost done. Hopefully, Vasily makes a new survey in the whole archipelago. Hopefully, we can obtain credible numbers of the trade into USA or Europe. Hopefully, we can investigate all invading populations, what's going on there. After my story, Vasily wants to go, maybe thinks about going to Lembe to see what's going on there with quantitative data. And my task to prevent more invasions to happen. Future conservation actions, Vasily is not giving up. He will propose the Banggai cardinal fish to go into the American Endangered Species Act. This is meaning a ban on the trade into the USA, and then likely Europe will follow. What can we do? Well, there's no need for wild-caught animals anymore. If you need a Banggai cardinal fish, then look among us, and it's a species quite easily to breed, and I guess we all here, EUAC has enough captive bred animals among us. Put them all on the fish flesh and do not buy captive of wild-caught animals anymore. So captive breeding is supposed to be a clear option, but is it still breeding like a guppy? No. No, I focus on this the last years, and more institutions tell me, no, they are not breeding in our institution anymore. For example, my own zoo, Artis, we send away more than 600 of them, surplus, captive bred, and now already many years the breeding stopped. Cause is still unknown, water quality, food quality, inbreeding. I plan to do a tiny little research on this, but also a questionnaire among you. Who does breed and who doesn't, and what are the differences? To be continued. Keep you informed. So, I thank all the people mentioned in the presentation, and let's keep fingers crossed for Nemo and friends. Thank you.
We have time for one question. And I would like to ask people when questioning something, please say your name and institution. Okay. Any question? Yes, there's one there.
You mentioned about, Heather Coldaway from Zoological Society of London. You mentioned about captive bred ones from Indonesia. Is that happening, or is that just a...
Well, the wholesaler tells me this is happening, and Vasily doesn't know about it. So, what to believe? If it happens, it will not be much, I think.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Eugene.
Okay, thank you.